Welcome to Doc9 Tech Talks.
This week on the podcast, I'm joined by Vince Sammon, who is the founder of two mortgage firms, Sammon Mortgages and his latest venture, Ladder. Now, Ladder in particular have been doing some really interesting things in this space from a technology point of view over the last year or so. And I think Vince has a really interesting perspective on the mortgage digital transformation world, both from a view of an incumbent and a startup. So firstly, good morning, Vince. Thanks for joining us today. Do you want to start by giving us a quick intro about yourself and your business?
Yeah, morning, Mark. Yes, so I've been a mortgage broker for over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've founded Sammon Mortgages 10 years ago now, and we launched Ladder last year.
Okay, cool. I've got to ask before we go any further, are you so dedicated to your brand that you have your logo on your wall at home, or are you in the office today?
I'm in the office, yeah, but I do have the brand obviously on the wall.
It's on all the wallpaper in the room. I had to ask, but so I guess we've known each other for a few years now, and I've seen you've had quite an interesting journey as an incumbent traditional mortgage broker that's invested quite heavily in new technology. I think it would be good for especially for those perhaps less familiar with the mortgage world, to start with the question: why did you make this big investment?
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose as a mortgage broker, paperwork, like many mortgage brokers, has always been a necessary evil.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first started out as Sammon Mortgages, we were looking just at, and I was always interested in ways of just sort of streamlining the process and becoming more efficient. And I suppose that thought stayed with me for many years. And we decided 4 years ago to take the leap into sort of building our own platform.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing on the market that we could have, bought in at that time that was sort of fit for purpose. So we sat out with the idea to make the most streamlined, efficient mortgage application, out there. And the aim was always just to free us up and allow us to spend more time on advice and less time on paperwork.
Mm-hmm. I guess at Doc9 we work in a number of sectors within the financial services, and I think it's fair to say historically the mortgage market has been a little bit slow to adopt new technology, and the impact on customers and brokers has been a lot of manual work, and can impact on a relatively slow process. So I guess what does the Ladder product actually do?
So Ladder's the first dual purpose mortgage platform in the market. So it allows a client to complete a mortgage journey online from start to finish, but it also, and just as importantly, allows a broker to use the Ladder platform as a back office tool. And it produces, also documents throughout the actual the journey, which is seamlessly transported into our CRM. It allows clients to upload documents securely to the platform, and also log in after application to monitor progression of the mortgage.
Caught me there just having a drink. Okay, cool. So I guess, if you cast your mind back a few years ago in the mortgage world, there was a lot of kind of excited talk of, robo-advisors and AI-driven, advice, etc. And I think, as it's kind of panned out, I think that human element of advice is still really valued by customers, given the size of, the transaction, etc. So it's effectively what your product does is automating where it can. And I guess giving the customer the ability to self-declare information securely, but freeing up brokers to add value where they can, but less repetitive manual tasks, I guess, is probably another way of sort of looking at it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the holy grail.
Yes.
Mortgage brokers, the advice is key, and it still is, but for mortgage brokers, and will continue to be. So it's just using our time, more effectively, less duplication, and removing some of those obstacles that have always been part of the mortgage process, and really just rethinking the journey, and bringing it up to date and making it sort of fit for today's purpose.
Yes. So you launched around a year ago, first to market, 18 months ago. So what have the results been so far for your brokerage?
Yeah, I mean, good. efficiency is the key. So we use the ladder platform at Sammon Mortgages. We're finding around about an 80% time saving on a mortgage application, on the mortgage application process. So what would have taken sort of, prior to ladder would have taken about 2 hours, now takes about 10 minutes in most cases. So I mean, we've done that just by removing the ongoing duplication. The ladder platform sources rates within the platform itself, credit scores, verify a client, and as I say, it sends out the automated documents, all the way through the journey. So everything captured feeds seamlessly into the CRM. So once it's entered and done, it's there.
Okay, and I guess that's the impact on you as a business from a customer's perspective. Does it compact the time and make it more efficient from the user journey as well? In terms of
Absolutely. So, yeah, completely. So, I mean, obviously, the key benefit probably to a client, outside of the obvious speed, is it frees up, the advisors to really be able to take the time and, advise them on, every single aspect. So not only mortgages, but also, peripheral sort of services as well, rather than being, completely bogged down by paperwork. So what's worked well so this year is the ability to upload documents securely, to always be able to log in and get an update on their application, where it's at that time. So time savings key.
Cool. I guess if you think about the mortgage journey, there's a lot of technologies that can assist with this and make it faster. I think you mentioned some technologies there around automated credit scoring, and I guess doing due diligence on customers, automatic things like that. What new technologies do you think will have the biggest impact for customers, brokers and lenders in the coming years?
So I mean, I think probably the top two for me would probably be open banking and digital identification. So open banking, probably the number one, in terms of being able to actually really streamline the process, the ability to capture financial data quickly and use it, is key. So I mean, it would incredibly, streamline any sort of financial process. Digital ID, very useful. The ability, again, especially with clients are at home and brokers at home and lenders are in and out the office. The ability to be able to know your client almost instantly. It would be it can be very useful for most firms.
And I think you're using digital ID at the moment. I think you've got some.
So digital ID we've had plugged into ladders really almost from the outset. So there's been different versions, and we've had to sort of upgrade it and finesse it as time's moved on. But we've been using it for a number of years now.
There have been customers quite open to using that. It's a fairly new way of interacting. A lot of challenger banks, when you sign up, have the process where you look into the camera and hold up your driving license, etc. It's becoming slightly more familiar. But what's the customer sort of reaction to that been?
Yeah, I mean, so customers have embraced it fairly well. The alternative, is to send your passport in the post. So most clients are fairly open to it and embraced it.
Yes, good. Now, how important do you think it is it from the customer's perspective to have that slick journey that they can enter information? Do you see any difference between different demographics of being open to use these interfaces as well?
I mean, so there's definitely there are some clients that will try not to embrace technology, and again, I think that's probably always going to be the case. So the older generation will struggle with it more so. But in terms of demographic, obviously the millennials and anyone I suppose anyone that has got online banking nowadays, which most people have. Are fairly open to giving online journeys, and fairly used to giving online journeys a go now. So
Mm.
yeah, most clients have embraced it, and see it's a time saving.
Yes. Yeah. I guess it's becoming more at the moment, having that kind of slick, super slick online journey is a bit of a USP, but I guess in years to come, it's gonna be the default view, I guess, and the expectation that customers are kind of want from brokers. So on that, how do you see the kind of role of the broker and lenders changing in the future in light of these big sort of fundamental technology shifts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think it's a necessity that both brokers and lenders embrace, tech. Brokers, yeah, we're now at a stage as brokers across the market that we need to stay, need to stay relevant. Brokers that do not embrace tech risk falling behind. So absolutely. With lenders, the same, the same story really. So, lots of lenders are looking to increase their direct business share. There are lots of lenders now that are getting much better at trying to retain existing clients. And both of those are, it's key to have a slick, easy to use digital journey.
Yeah, I think that's a trend I've probably seen as well, is that a lot of the first wave of investment from lenders has been focused on getting the APIs ready in the background, but also that the product switch journeys. I guess from a strategic point of view, that was probably makes sense for them to look at first. So I guess on that then, if you think about how brokers and lenders interact, and then later down the line with conveyancers, etc., you could make your journey super slick and super easy, but ultimately one of the major headaches in the industry, and I kind of remember I've been around the industry for 15 years in some form or other, is rekeying of data. So ultimately you can capture all this data, you could do automated lookups for ID and due diligence and etc. But ultimately, if you've got to then log into a broker portal to manually rekey that data, the journey starts to slow down quite a lot, and also you have it's opportunities for error as well. So I think really, if you look at this, to ultimately really transform this journey, to get that, well, I guess at the moment it's even longer journey with how busy everyone is at the moment, but that 3 to 4 month journey down to, people have been talking about, you can get down to weeks from beginning to end. That's going to require electronic passing of data from brokers to lenders to conveyancers, etc. How is that going to happen in future? I mean, it's the obvious thing, but what have your discussions so far been with other third parties?
Yeah, so we've spoken to lots of conveyancers that have now sort of entered into that market, and like-minded. It's definitely going to happen. It needs to be, sort of adopted across the market. But the tools are out there for it to happen now. So it's really just a matter of sort of connecting the dots. So I think it will come when it comes to the market as mass, a whole. Not sure, but it's going to be, I'd imagine, not in a too distant future.
And that thing about sort of connecting the dots, that I had a digital identity provider on the previous episode, and their technology could be used, but effectively, if you think about, it from a customer perspective, if I give my digital ID at the beginning to you as a broker, I kind of don't want to have to give it again 3-4 times later down the journey. But at the moment, everyone has their own responsibility to do their KYC, etc., and due diligence on the customer. So there is no way of, there's no kind of set standard for digital ID. There's no yet. The government have been talking about stuff like that, but I guess that will be nirvana, right? And that's going to require trust between passing this with different parties. More standards, industry standards around digital ID and things like that. I think that's probably, we seem tantalizingly close, but I think that sort of, that might slow it down slightly.
Yeah, I think as an industry, we need to, that's the next step. We need to be able to use certain talking about ID, certain sort of systems or platforms across the industry as standard. But as I say, it will definitely come.
Yeah.
And it will be just in terms of that element of a client's journey. It's the way it should be now. It would just take just an extra layer of work and timing out of it. So
Yeah. Yes. As mentioned, I've sort of been around the mortgage industry from a technology point of view for, over a decade now, and there have been a number of false storms before when it seemed like we're on the cusp of, a big leap forward in technology. And I guess without naming, saying the C word, something's happened this year which has forced technology to kind of be used a lot more, and we are seeing a lot more investment this year in light of that. Do you think we're on the cusp of, some quite meaningful change now, or will this be another false storm?
I think we're definitely on the cusp of meaningful change. I think this year, particularly, I think all businesses, so brokers and lenders, and sort of all intermediary businesses have had lots of time to have a look at what's working and what's not, and also what's going to work in the new world going forward. So if we've got if home working is now the norm,
Yeah.
if for the foreseeable future, lenders are going to maybe struggle to man call centers and things like that. I think every in the mortgage market, every element of the mortgage market could benefit, could have benefited from better technology and better platforms. So
I've actually seen something interesting in the last couple of years, where there, obviously, as I mentioned, there was a lot of excited talk of, from a B2C perspective, having, technology to be used to ultimately have an AI driven, automated advice. But actually, now that kind of sort of excitement's died down a bit, that focus on that, what we've seen at Doc9, especially over the last kind of 9 months, has been a lot more focus on, okay, well, actually, there's lots of operational challenges we face as a business, particularly when, you have a best buy rate and then your call center swamped with, and a lot of those inquiries don't necessarily need a human to answer. So a lot of conversations we've been having around chatbot technology, or even just better UX on the website to answer these, to help manage these peaks and troughs. I think, often it's, once the excitement dies down around technology, it's then, in the background in the years after, where the real use cases get found. And sometimes there can be more back office use cases and, maybe less glamorous, but also sort of can have quite a big impact. So I guess, it'd be fair to say you've been on quite a big journey. Was it over 4 years, I think you said, sort of developing the platform?
yeah, it feels like longer, but it's been
Yeah. And we've had the opportunity to work together through part of that journey as well, which was a pleasure to work on. Are there any tips for other mortgage brokers that are kind of early on in that transformation journey and not really quite sure where to start? And I guess another way of framing it, that would be, if you started that journey afresh, what would you do differently?
Yeah, so I mean, 4 years has been a bit of a labour of love. I think anyone looking to embark on that journey, there's an awful lot of time, energy, and money that goes in to the journey, and then even once you've reached the end, you then you reach a testing phase. So we've been using Ladder for a number of years now. We've actually put through between sort of 2,000 and 3,000 applications through the platform. And we've constantly developed and shaped the platform as a result of the robust testing. For a broker or a lender looking to now sort of jump in and adopt a digital journey or build digital journey, I'd probably encourage them to maybe look to utilize some platforms that are already out there, like Ladder. It would just give them the ability to get to market quicker and become more efficient sooner, and reap the rewards.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's probably whenever there's new technology, there's a lot of investment and innovation, but after a while, it becomes more available in platforms, I guess. And I'm a great believer in reusing technology when you can. So I guess on that note, then, in terms of Ladder and that platform, where could people find out more information if they're interested in having a chat?
Yeah, so I mean, probably LinkedIn. I mean, if someone was to need or want more information on Ladder, just feel free, reach out on LinkedIn. Be happy to have a chat and field any questions or give any advice I can.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll put a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes then.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thanks a lot for joining, Vince, today. It's been a pleasure to speak, and hopefully we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mark.